Appreciate you. Okay. All right, I'll call the special meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Monday, June 24th at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. Prayer will be offered by Acting Clerk, Alderman Clee,
Thank you, Madam.
and Alderman Thibodeau will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Thank you, Madam President. Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with the spirit of unity and understanding which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us, God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, please.
Alderman O'Brien. Alderwoman Timmon. Alderman Moran. Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman GOV.
Here.
Alderman Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons. Alderman Sennett.
Here.
Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderman Thibault. Alderman Clee, I'm here. Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Here.
And Alderman Wilshire.
I'm here. So we have 1, 2,
We have a quorum.
Wait,
8, 9, 10 present, 5
10.
absent. Thank you. Tonight, we have a public hearing on changing the purpose of up to $273,774 of unexpended bond proceeds from the Franklin Street School Building Improvement Projects to the School Building Safety Improvement Project. I'm going to turn this over to Alderman Dowd.
Okay, so the hearing tonight is on R-24062. Before we get started with public comment, I'm going to explain what this is because the school department has a school board meeting tonight, so no one can be here. This is money that's left over in the bond proceeds from a sold bond at the Franklin Street School project after all bills and contracts have been completed. So when we have the amount of money that's left, we had a meeting to determine, where's the best place to put this, and discussions with city treasurer, John Griffin. It was an easy transfer to transfer this money to the security vestibule project. As you recall, we originally had 3 schools we were going to do security vestibule projects for, and in anticipation of that project, we passed $2 million bond. After we had an architect design, Dr. Crisp, and then have it priced, it came in about 1.3 million. It may end up being a little less than that, but that's what the contract cost is at the moment. And that project is well underway. It's due to be completed this summer. We had an original design from the same architect for New Searles School. The original, it came in at 2.7 million, and we said no. They wanted to build onto the front of the school, and that was way out of scope. So they went back to the drawing board to do a design which is far, far less. We don't know the exact amount yet because we have to get the final drawings and get them priced. But at some point, we will have to add money to that project, as we originally only bonded $2 million. So this money left from Franklin is on a bond that's already been sold at a very low rate. And since we probably are going to need additional monies to do New Searles, if we're going to, this board determines that we don't want to have one school without a security vestibule of all the schools in the city. But I don't know what that is. So the idea was, in talking to John Griffin, that we take this 277K and put it towards the security vestibule project, not only will it reduce the amount of potential new bond, but it may even put us in a position to fund it a different way and not even have to bond it. Because the amount is potentially going to be not that much after we add the 277 to the project. So, I think that sort of summarizes the intent of why we want to transfer this money to the security vestibule project. If anybody has any questions, Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So did I misunderstand you, or am I misreading the analysis? I think I read the resolution. The resolution talks about 273,774.
Yeah, that's the right number.
But you kept saying 277.
I'm sorry, there's another number in my head on something else.
Okay.
No, that's the number. The number that's on the resolution is the exact number.
Okay. I have another question.
Yes.
So this 273,774 is surplus from the original bond for Franklin Street, which was $5 million,
Yes.
and then it refers to another bond for the school building safety improvements project for $2 million.
Yes.
Has that one been sold, or are we?
I don't know whether that's been sold, but we've been incurring costs and paying bills, so they normally pay, especially on low amounts like this, pay them out of cash first and sell the bond when they need to, so I don't know if it's been sold yet. So, but if we transfer this money into that project, it will change the 2 million to the 2 million plus the 233. And then if the costs come in for new searles at above that, then we'll have to look at whether we want to either bond the additional money or add to the bond to see what it would be, or find another way to fund it. But that would be up to John Griffin and the mayor if they have funds from another source to bring to us. But this will be the final school to get a security vestibule into, other than Mount Pleasant, which we already have a design for and a cost for, but the school department hasn't made a decision as to whether they want to keep the school open, so we weren't spending money on that until that decision is made.
Okay, and
Follow up.
if I could ask another, so the school, the 273,774, that this is going to be, the fund that this is going to be added to, do we know what, it doesn't sound like we know what that's going to cost yet. These
The new
school-
searles, the final project?
Yes,
No, until we have the design costed by Harvey Construct, we have to have the design finished, which should be now, and then costed by Harvey Construction, then we'll have a final price. The original design included adding physical structure to the front of the building. This new design, we took 2 classrooms and rearranged them to have a security vestibule inside the existing school, so there's no new outside structural walls. So, and we're not having to do piping and all this other stuff. It'd be significantly less money, but we don't know what it is yet. It'll definitely be more than probably than the 273 we're adding, and the balance of what's left in the bond, but probably not by, I can't say, because it's not going to be what the original design was. It's going to be far, far, far less. So it may not be enough to actually add to the bond if they city treasurer wants to pay for a different way, but we'll know that when we get the final pricing. But we want to close out this project, Franklin Street. The bond's already been sold, that money is available. It can be transferred only to school projects, and this is the project that we felt would get the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay, so that brings up another question. When you
Sure.
say it can only be used towards school projects,
Mm-hmm.
why is that?
Because the bonding in the city of Nashua has two different categories, general city bonds and school bonds. And they have different thresholds, so you can't transfer bonds across those lines. Like, we couldn't take that money and do renovation of City Hall. Well, it doesn't work. You can check that out with John Griffin, but that's been true forever.
So, so he and Attorney Bolton recently said that, you know, that bond money can be, you know, repurposed for different things, but the difference here is that this is a school bond
School bond.
as opposed to a general.
Yes,
Okay. And what this is doing is it's just allowing us to use the 273, 774. That's making it available for this project.
yes.
We're not voting on this project
No,
with this.
just available.
Okay.
If for some reason we never did that, the money would just go, not get touched.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Cleen?
I actually have a comment, so I'm going to ask you whether I should hold it for your budget.
You should, because we're
Yeah, I
supposed to
think
be
we're going further
just
into it. Yes.
clarification of what the thing is, because we haven't done public comment, although that shouldn't take long.
Well, it was just kind of a comment prior to the meeting that we had about that this would be at a lower rate than if we had to bond it.
Yes.
That was the only thing I
This-
wanted to bring forward.
If we add this money to the security vestibule project, that money will be is at a lower rate than if we had to add the full amount to the security vestibule project under a bond. So, with that said, Alderman Lopez, you have a clarifying question?
Yes. So to clarify, the vestibule project has already been approved by this board and bonded at the level that we already did. And this project overall has already been requested by the Board of Education as part of that process.
Yes.
And then the purpose of doing it this particular way is because the project, at least 2 out of 3 of the schools are achievable, but we're trying to avoid putting more money into them to meet the need by taking existing money. Specifically, this is desirable because it has a lower interest rate, because,
Yes.
okay, just
We're
making sure.
trying to do the new Searles project at the lowest cost possible. I
Okay.
see Alderman Senate, did you? No, no. All right. So now, again, it's a public hearing on R 24062. So now I'll take any testimony in favor. Seeing none. Testimony in opposition? None. For the record, there is no one in the chamber. And from the public, testimony in favor again? None. And once again, testimony in opposition? None. We'll close the public hearing on R 24062 at 7:14 PM. Alderman Cleen?
Yes, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that the June 24th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Aldermen be adjourned.
The motion on the floor is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We adjourn at 7:14. And budget will start right away. Committee to order. It's June 24th, 2024. We're in the Aldermanic Chamber, and it's 7:15 PM, which is exactly the time it said on the agenda. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Alderman Senate,
Here.
Alderman Tebow, Alderman Sullivan,
Here.
Alderwoman at Large Kelly,
I'm here.
Alderman at Large Wilshire,
I'm here.
Alderman at Large O'Brien, and Alderman Dowd.
Present. We have a quorum,
You have 4, right?
and also in attendance is Director Sullivan. Okay, first item on the agenda is public comment. Anyone that wishes to speak in public comment? None? Communications,
There is none.
unfinished business,
There is none.
new business resolutions.
I cannot make the motion.
I will. R 24-061, authorizing the City of Nashua and new contracts with the Hegan Valley Transportation Collaborative, Nashua Community College, Riviera University, Town of Hudson, Town of Merrimack for transit services. Is there anyone here to give an explanation of this?
Did you
can
make the
actually come
motion?
up and sit.
Did you make the motion?
Oh, I mean, yes.
I'll make a motion to recommend final passage of R 24-061.
Motion
Yes.
made by Alderman Wiltshire. All right. If you want, you can sit.
I can make them, I just can't make the motion.
It's the Sullivan
no.
side of the meeting.
I know.
That's kind of what I was going for.
Sullivan versus everyone else.
Sullivan versus
I
Sullivan.
just want everyone to know.
Sounds like a
we're
law
not-
case.
We're not twins.
Getting there.
Oh, goodness.
Someday, Matt.
Oh, I know. I'm headed that way. I'm headed that way.
Okay.
It's because of all of you. No.
Twins from different mothers, I get it.
Director Sullivan. I mean,
Thank you.
Division Director Sullivan.
No, that's quite all right. For the record, Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director, here on behalf of R 24-061. This is I feel like I say this often, but this is an annual piece of legislation to authorize us to enter into a good thing, and that is a series of revenue contracts associated with the Nashua Transit System. This year, there's a small change beyond just the values of the hourly rates or the rates themselves within the contracts, and that is that through negotiation with the town of Merrimack, and based on increasing need of that town, and particularly the trips that we've booked for paratransit and ADA services over the last year, we're actually entering into 2 contracts with the town of Merrimack, one being our traditional operating contract to provide ADA paratransit service, the second being a bit of a partnership, I'll refer to it, between the town of Merrimack, the city of Nashua as the provider, and Nashua Regional Planning Commission. This was based on the fact that the town of Merrimack was not prepared to mobilize the amount of matching funds necessary to increase the base contract with the city of Nashua. However, Nashua Regional Planning Commission is a recipient of what are referred to as federal 5310 ADA paratransit operating monies, and NRPC has chosen to grant a set of those monies in favor of the town of Merrimack and the services provided there. It doesn't totally eliminate the need for the town of Merrimack to provide matching funds, but it greatly diminishes the amount of match that they need to mobilize to provide a fairly substantial level of service. And so there's actually an additional contract included here where the city of Nashua serves as the provider of record. We will still be compensated for the service that we're providing, but the source of that compensation will actually come through the town of Merrimack and Nashua Regional Planning Commission. So just wanted to note that. In advance of the meeting, Alderman Sullivan actually did ask me a great question. I wanted to share the answer with everyone. And the question was, in the context of the recent budget increase to the transit service, and certainly to the recent contract amendment with First Transit or TransDev, how are those costs, or are these costs adjusted to reflect those increased costs of service to the city of Nashua? And the simple answer is yes, they absolutely are. And I had sent Alderman Sullivan just a quick snapshot that doesn't completely address the nuts and bolts of facility maintenance, fleet maintenance, operations, and ongoing service. But what it does do, I hope, is over the last 2 years represent the fact that we have substantially increased the hourly rate that we're charging to external parties, those being Town of Merrimack, Hudson, SVTC, and the 2 universities. So just to give you a snapshot of what that looks like, because I think it's notable to ensure that the city of Nashua is not being overly burdened with the costs. Looking back to 2022, as just an example, we were charging Souhegan Valley Transportation Collaborative $53 an hour for our service. We're now charging them $73.88. So we've increased our cost almost by 50% over the last 2 years in response to the increased need that we have to cover that match in the budget. Similarly, with the town of Merrimack and Hudson, it's a little bit of a shorter trip for us than it is to Sauhegan Valley Transit. We've increased costs from $44 an hour up to about $58 an hour. So we've increased costs there as well. Again, with an eye towards not overly burdening the city of Nashua with covering that gap in the increase of service. Just a quick note, for Riviera and NCC, we have great partnerships with them. We track their ridership, and we track how many folks are getting on with their ID and showing their ID and getting a free ride. As a result, for Riviera, between 2022 and 2024, our old rate with them was a flat $8,000. It's now $16,000. So we've done really well there, but there's also been increasing costs. NCC, we've seen lower ridership, and so we went from 4,500 back in 2022. We're now at 4,750. We've seen very stable ridership there, and actually some diminishing ridership when it comes to the NCC students. So I just wanted to provide some explanation of that and why the rates actually change herein. Just to be clear for the record, all of the entities that these contracts are with are aware of the modifications to the terms of the contracts. That's not something that we hold until after this discussion. We make sure they're comfortable before proceeding with bringing these contracts forward to you. So hopefully that answers some questions you might have, but happy to answer any others that you might.
First is I see a lot of people getting on the buses that aren't students because it's right through my ward.
Yep.
A lot of the condo complexes that are on that street, a lot of the people use the bus service, so I'm sure there are riders. And the other thing, you said you sent a email to Alderman Sullivan?
Yes.
Can you please send a copy of that to Donna Graham so she can give it to the entire board?
I took care of it.
Did you? Thank you. Thank you.
As you were, yeah. Well done.
Team Sullivan.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Just for the record, that was Alderman Sullivan.
Perfect. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, Alderman Sullivan.
A simple question, Director Sullivan, you alluded to NRPC is gonna help Merrimack out. Where does NRPC get their money?
Great question, Mr. Chair, if I may. So NRPC receives their money in the same way that the city does from a federal entity, and that's from the Federal Transit Administration. These are all Category 53 funds. We receive 5307 funds as our primary operating grant. They receive 5310 monies. 5310 monies are reserved for, again, it's an FTA grant, they're reserved for ADA paratransit services. As a regional coordinating council, which is a specific entity, they receive an allocation of those monies. That's where that comes from.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
All set?
Yep.
Other questions? Alderman Jettie?
Thank you. So, I heard you say that we're charging in Merrimack $73.88 an hour. And then you said we're charging Hudson because they're closer. It's a shorter trip for us. We're charging them $58 an hour. So how does the distance, what difference does it make what the distance is regarding the hourly rate?
So great question. Just a point of clarification to provide a little more detail, I maybe spoke too soon. There are actually two Merrimack hourly rates. There's an hourly rate as part of our standard contract, Alderman Jettie. That hourly rate is $57.87 an hour. There's another hourly rate as part of the NRPC agreement that's actually in alignment with the $73.88 that we're charging to Sauhegan Valley Transportation Collaborative. So there are two hourly rates, both for the town of Merrimack, within two different contracts. So it's not all just the mileage driven. What I will say though is that when it comes to particularly the SVTC contract, the Sauhegan Valley Transportation Collaborative is a service that provides point-to-point access for individuals living in Milford, Amherst, Wilton, and other communities in that area. The reason that we charge more is that we are deploying fleet out to that area, which is sort of on the western end of it's outside of our fixed route span. We're deploying fleet out there and delivering to trips in that geography. So unlike the Hudson and Merrimack service, where we're bringing folks from Hudson and Merrimack into Nashua to appointments, and it's a point-to-point service in that way, we actually deploy fleet out to the Milford area and bring folks point-to-point in a separate geography. and we serve as a transportation provider of record out there. So the reason that we charge more is because we are literally taking our bus, bringing it along the 101A corridor, let's say, and then operating out there. So there's more mileage cost, more fleet wear and tear to provide that service to the SVTC, or the Sauhegan Valley Transportation Collaborative. Relative to the $70 plus that we're charging the town of Merrimack through the NRPC agreement, it's our feeling that that's a supplemental service above and beyond, particularly with additional billable hours, and so we've chosen to charge them more of an outside contractor rate above and beyond what we're charging the town of Hudson, the town of Merrimack, with their base contract. And I hope all of that makes sense, but happy to answer follow-up questions if there are some.
Follow-up?
Thank you. Yeah, it may make perfect sense, but not to me.
Okay.
I still don't understand, no matter how far you go, if you're charging by the hour, it would be how long it takes him. And if we're going farther, it's gonna take us longer, and you multiply that by the hourly rate and whatever.
Yep.
So the fact that Hudson's closer, or Merrimack, parts of Merrimack may be closer, if we're spending an hour, we're still spending an hour. The wear and tear on the equipment, I think wear and tear on this type of equipment is measured in hours, not miles, but I may be wrong about that. But I'm still having trouble understanding why, if we're charging by the hour, why is it different numbers?
And I'm glad you asked for clarification. So the reason for that is that when we're deploying our fleet to SVTC territory, let's say, we're not actually directly charging an hourly rate as we deploy the equipment out there. We charge them for the time that we're providing service in that area. So it's lost cost to us then to get the vehicle out there and to get the vehicle back. And so we've built that lost cost into our hourly rate. That's the additional charge. So that, I don't know if that makes a little more sense, that we aren't actually charging that hourly rate when we're getting out to provide service to SVTC, but we instead then build it into our hourly cost so that we can take up or cover some of that lost expense, fuel, tire wear and tear, et cetera. I hope that maybe answers the question a little bit more directly. I may not have been direct.
Yes, it adds.
Getting a little closer. Okay. Okay.
Other questions? Alderman Sullivan?
Thank you. So just to follow up, just to simplify that, if they're going out to Milford, basically the meter on the transportation doesn't start running until they're at the site. So really the trip out to Milford, for instance, is off the clock.
That's a great way of looking at it. Yep.
Okay.
That's
all
right.
Thanks.
Other questions? Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. Not a question, just a comment. I have appreciated how we've continued to work with other communities as we've grown our transit, and I think it's, the department does a great job at just making sure that we're making these negotiations so that people can get places without a car, because I grew up in a place where you couldn't get anywhere without a car, so.
Other questions? Seeing none? Okay, the motion before us is authorize the city of Nashua to enter into contracts with the Sauhegan Valley Transportation Collaborative, Nashua Community College, Riviera University, Town of Hudson, Town of Merrimack for transit services. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. The next item, I might as well.
I was gonna say I can read it. Somebody else got to do the motion though, yeah.
The next item is R 24-062, changing the purposes of the $273,774 of unexpected bond proceeds from the Franklin Street School Building Improvements Project to the School Building Safety Improvement Project.
Make the motion.
No, you can make the motion.
They're fighting
Oh,
over it.
another one.
Got a coin? Alderwoman Kelly made the motion to recommend final passage.
Sure. Actually, a question, but yes.
All right. Any questions? Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. When Alderman Lopez asked during the public hearing about this is already approved money, I guess I was confused because you're now saying that the second half is gonna be more expensive. So, we approved $2 million, let me just make sure I understand.
Right.
$2 million for 2 vestibules. It's not gonna cover 2 vestibules, is that correct?
Right.
So we're putting this money in the pot that we're gonna eventually have to grow for the second vestibule, which we don't know
If
what the
we
cost is.
decide to vote to do the work, yes.
And does
Otherwise,
that come, I guess my question was, because the way he worded it was, we've already approved it, that still comes back to us because there'll be additional money that has to be put into the pot.
right, we just don't know how much and from where, but
Okay.
it still
That
has
was
to be
my
voted
question.
on by Board of Education, this board, joint special. But the money will be there to offset any additional costs.
Gotcha.
And again, if we, for any reason we decided not to do that project, the money would still be available to the city.
Thank you, that, just wanted that clarification.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. By the way, one thing I wanted to mention that had nothing to do with this exactly, but this school project also brought in $20,000 in energy savings from rebate from the gas company, electric company, whatever. But for whatever reason, that goes into the general fund. It used to come back to the projects to offset the cost of the project, but now it goes into the general fund. We have monies that'll be coming back from Pennachuck, we had monies come back from Fairgrounds, and we'll have a big chunk of money coming back from McCarthy, but it'll go into the general fund. Just FYI. Okay, new business ordinances,
There is none?
table and committee.
There is none.
Oh, we got rid of that big one. General discussion? None? Public comment? No one here? None? Remarks by Alderman? None? Alderwoman Clee.
I cannot do that.
Oh,
Alderwoman,
somebody want to make a motion to
Motion
adjourn? Motion is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We adjourn at 7:32 PM.